So right now, Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, but largely Kirsten Sinema, is pushing back against the ability to have any sort of real money poured into infrastructure in the United States. In the Senate, they've just been absolutely desecrating the ability of Joe Biden and of the Democrats more broadly to push the agenda of the Build Back Better agenda, whatever you might want to call it. And this is a real problem for a variety of reasons. Obviously, COVID is a huge part of it. The economy is in shambles post-COVID, even still, better than it was 10 months ago, but certainly still has a lot to make up. And we have not reached the levels that we were prior. And one of the things that I think is most terrifying is that coronavirus is not the only problem that we're dealing with. I think that we've been focused very intensely on coronavirus, and for good reason. But there are other problems that are more long term. And one of those problems is that we are 5.5 million units short. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. We are 5.5 million units short of long-term historic levels in terms of housing. And there's just really no way that we can build this up, that we can make this up unless we have serious investment, serious public investment. And that's just something that we're not on track to do. And I am really scared for the future of housing. I'm really scared because this deficit includes 2 million single-family homes, 1.1 million units in buildings with 2 to 4 units, and 2.4 units in buildings of at least 5 units. Report says the scale of the problem is so large, said David Banks, senior vice president of Rosen Consult Group, and one of the report's authors, that we need affordable housing, we need market rate, we need single-family, we need multifamily, and this is true. I think that a lot of people, I was a few days ago, I was sort of talking with some socialist brethren, if you will, on Facebook, and I've had these discussions in real life with people as well, about this idea that we need public housing, right? And that public housing ought to be sort of the primary driver of a change of housing. And I'm sorry, that is stupid. That is just profoundly naive. At this point, we need to be taking any kind of housing that we build is the right kind of housing to build, because we are so screwed right now, really nationwide, particularly in places like California, particularly in places like New York, but just across the entire country, whether we're talking about urban areas, whether we're talking about rural areas, we just need more housing. And the reason that we don't have housing isn't random. It's not like this just happened, right? This happened because we made mistakes historically. We've made mistakes. We've made the decision to make it extraordinarily difficult for people to build housing. We've made it extraordinarily difficult from the perspective of zoning legislation, from the perspective of all of these needless code enforcements, all of these constant attacks on the ability to build. The result is that we don't have enough housing. And people seem to think that it's like progressive to push back against people who are building, it's high income housing, or people when, they'll push back against, this housing doesn't have enough, this is not, rent controlled housing. This housing isn't, any number of things. I'm sorry. We just need housing, okay? And this kind of knee-jerk fight against housing, it fails to recognize the fact that new home construction fell 6.8 million units short of what was needed to meet household formation growth and replace units that were aging and destroyed by natural disasters. That's between 2010 and 2020. We are just genuinely, the median existing home price rose 19% from a year earlier to $341,000 in April. That is insane. It's insane. What that tells us is that we need to be building literally millions more houses than we are currently. And we need to be fixing up the housing units that we have already. And we're just not able to. And and I mean, we talk about things like a land value tax. And I think that people hear that and they're like, this sort of highfalutin Georgist nonsense. He's just trying to push a particular agenda in terms of his ideological desire to have natural resources be used in a public capacity. I won't pretend that I don't also want, in a long-term perspective, to be, getting to a point where, yes, natural resources are used more publicly. But even in the short term, we just need more housing. And a huge part of the reason that we don't have more housing is because there is not financial interest in building more housing, because there's no benefit that's provided to you. People are constantly harangued by the government, harangued by their fellow citizens even, when they're trying to build new housing, because it's just made intentionally so much more difficult than it should be. So this is a somewhat sad video, and I wish I didn't have to make it, but this is just such a problem that I think it would be a disservice not to talk about it.